Put a little spring in your step with great savings rates from Andrews Federal Credit Union. From now through March 31st, you'll earn 3.75% APY on your savings when you open our 3-month Spring Forward Share Certificate. Start with as little as $1,000 and watch it grow. Open your new share certificate at Andrews Federal and spring forward towards your savings goals. Get started now at andrewsfcu.org. Andrews Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. APY equals annual percentage yield. For eligibility and membership requirements, visit andrewsfcu.org.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to Chasing the Gold for March 6, 2023. I am JD Duran, and I am joined by the wonderful, the great Brian Rowe. Brian, thanks for being here, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, really glad to have you here. We've talked quite a few times over the last few weeks and months, kind of leading up to the Oscars, and here we are. It is time.
This is it, man. We are days away.
A few days away. We are less than a week. It is time to get in our predictions. Before we get into it, though, how you feeling? Confident? Not confident? Somewhere in between?
The last few years, I've gone in feeling pretty confident. There's always usually one category in like the top 8. I'm kind of like, I could go this way or that way. And this year, no, I have my thoughts about each category, and I feel pretty good about them. But I feel like in almost every major category this year, outside of a couple, like it could go 2 or 3 ways. And so you just kind of have to go with your gut and maybe some old statistics and things of like what's won before and how this person won in the past. And so, this year's tricky. I'm not feeling super confident that I'm going to get like 22 out of 23 this year. That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. I definitely won't. I'll be lucky if I get 10, but that's why I bring on the experts such as yourself, because I'm just indulging in this is really all that I'm doing. I'm far from it. But we'll pretend I'm a pseudo expert in the Oscars. I would say that I know more than my brother, the average person, but I'm a far cry from others like yourself. So this will be a lot of fun. I'm curious to see where this goes. We're going to start with all of the below the line categories here. We'll get to all the fun stuff at the end. As far as confidence goes, I think my confidence will swing wherever yours goes as we talk here. So you'll be leading the charge. This is also fun for me in a lot of ways, Brian, because away from art and cinema, I'm actually a big sports person. So if you and I were to get into a conversation about the NHL, for example, or the NFL, like I can really hold my own in a conversation about those things. And, the Oscars is sports for film and for art. And I am, very much the outsider. I feel like a lot of people in the art and film space aren't as in touch with sports. And that's kind of where I find myself with this. So it's a fun space to be, I think. I get to lean on you guys as we go here, but I'm excited to see where this goes. So without further ado, are you ready to just go ahead and jump into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're going to start off with Best Original Song. The nominees are Applause from Tell It Like a Woman, Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick, Lift Me Up from Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Not To from RRR, and This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once. All right, Brian, kick it off for us. What is your prediction for this category?
This is a tough one. I mean, we're starting with a hard one. My prediction is Not To from RRR, which I just think is a great song. It's the one way for the Academy members to reward that movie. It's the only category it's in. And that's what gives me some pause. I'm like, well, it's not in any other category. They didn't submit it for international feature film, their country. So that's why it's probably not. That's probably why it's not there. And then it didn't get into Best Picture. I mean, some people thought it might get into Best Picture and like maybe visual effects, and it didn't. But when I look at the other nominees, I'm like, I guess the Top Gun song could win if there's enough love for that movie. But has that song won anything this year? Like, has that won stuff?
So.
Like, I don't think I've heard much about it. I mean, it was a nice song when the movie dropped in May. I enjoyed that song, but like I don't hear people talking about it. Whereas Not To, there was a lot of chatter about it on Twitter for months, and it's a great part of the movie. And I don't know, I'm just kind of leaning toward Not To because it's the one way to reward RRR on Oscar night. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. To that same point, that same argument, maybe that's why Hold My Hand does steal this, because I don't know if Top Gun Maverick is going to win anything else. Of course, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
There's one category I think it wins, yeah.
Okay, and that's, I'm assuming sound. Okay, so assuming that it does win sound, then yeah, I'm completely with you that Not To is going to win this. It is the horse leading this race. It has won all of the other award ceremonies that's had this category, as far as I know, anyway.
Yeah, it won at Golden Globes, right? I think it won song at Golden Globe. And
they announced that they are performing this at the Oscars,
that's right. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, come on. Like, I know they don't know who's going to win before they schedule these things, but wink, wink. I think it's going to win. Yeah.
I don't think song has to be like, the winner of song doesn't have to be a Best Picture nominee. Like, I don't think that matters.
Yeah.
When you get to some of these technical categories, like, it doesn't have to be a Best Picture nominee. It can be a movie just with 1 or 2 nominations. I mean, if there's enough love for the song and for the movie, usually it can steal it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, RRR was one of the biggest surprises of the year. It was a big hit. Everyone seems to love it. And this is really the only category it can win. It just makes sense that this is where they're going to.
Wouldn't it be funny if Diane Warren won? For a movie, I still like. Is this a real movie? Is this a thing?
Who knows? Yeah,
it's the most bizarre movie nomination.
Yeah, it's funny. We joke, but would anyone truly be surprised if that happens? I don't know if we would be, really.
Well, it'd be very anticlimactic because I think it's like her 14th nomination since the 80s, and then she just got an honorary Oscar a few months ago.
Yeah.
So for her to win that and then to finally win a competitive Oscar for a movie nobody has seen or heard of, that'd be very strange.
It would be strange. No, I agree. So you and I on the same page here. We're predicting Not To, yes? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to Best Original Score. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and John Williams for The Fabelmans. What do you got for this category, Brian?
I have absolutely no idea. I feel like any one of these 5 could win. I feel like if there's one I could take off the table, I'm thinking maybe Banshees. I don't think that takes this. The argument for Fabelmans is that John Williams hasn't won an Oscar since 94 for Schindler's List. He's been nominated 22 times since 94. He has 53 nominations. He's only won 5 in 53. He's like, 91 years old? And I believe he announced, he hasn't announced he's retiring yet, but I think he said this is the last film I'm doing with Spielberg. So it could be just like a way to like give him a legacy win 30 years later, 30 years since Schindler's List. But the score isn't very memorable is the problem. Like when I watched The Fabelmans, I didn't even really think about the score. Like it never really stood out to me. So that's the problem there.
Well, maybe it's because I'm a score junkie. It is memorable to me. I love it. Like I can hear its melodies in my head as we discuss it. I do really like it. It's one of those scores, though, where much of its prowess, it stems from, it's rooted in previously written, scores such as Bach, for example. But I do love it. I think it's very good. And yes, this is going to be, I think we can all presume, the last opportunity for him to win an Oscar. He does have one more score coming out for Indiana Jones next year, but let's be honest, that's not going to win an Oscar. Would he be nominated? Maybe, because
Probably.
the Academy loves to do that.
All the time. Yeah.
They can't not nominate him, but I don't think it's going to win. I think there's an argument to be made that the Oscar here isn't just pandering, but that it is very good. That said, I mean, I don't see a world in which Justin Hurwitz loses this.
That's my
This
pick,
has to be Babylon. That score is so vivacious. It is incredibly bombastic. It's a lot of fun. It is so in your face and in the best ways. I absolutely adore it. I love it. It's seems to be the front runner in this category. And it's really the only nomination here, right? It's the only opportunity for Babylon to win. Could Banshees or All Quiet steal this, or The Fabelmans? I mean, maybe, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm still going Babylon here.
Yeah, I'm predicting Babylon, but this is one of the scarier ones, because I did look it up this morning actually for an article I just wrote. Like how many films win Best Score without a Best Picture nomination? And there's been like 2 in the last 12 years. Like it's usually a Best Picture. The 2 that won, Soul won in 2021. That was up for animated feature, but not Best Picture.
Okay.
And then The Hateful Eight won score, and that only got like supporting actress for Jennifer Jason Leigh and cinematography nomination.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But usually it's in a movie with like a lot of nominations. It's in Best Picture. And Babylon only has the 3 technical nominations.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to predict Babylon, actually. Like it's probably going to go to All Quiet or Everything Everywhere.
Now,
those are probably ahead of Babylon, I think, even though I'm predicting Babylon.
Well,
because I love it.
See, this is where it gets interesting, and why I love having others such as yourself here to bring these level of statistics, because I wouldn't have known that unless you brought that to the table here. That's fascinating to hear. It makes a lot of sense. I do understand why that would be the case. Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to win a bajillion awards on
at
Sunday.
least 5. Yeah.
I don't think this needs to be one of them.
Yeah, but it might be that thing where they just check it off the list. They love the movie, they're giving a picture director, and they go, score.
And that's the thing with the voting that I hate that. I hope that people have more conviction than that when they're voting on these things. But so I wouldn't be surprised. I won't be shocked. I'll be severely disappointed, because I do think Babylon is very deserving. Mm-hmm. I think The Fabelmans is way more deserving than everything. I would be happy, extremely happy, if John Williams does.
Wouldn't that be a moment? That would be a moment. Like 91-year-old John Williams goes up on stage. The standing ovation would be incredible.
It would be, 100%.
And I think it's the only Oscar Fabelmans can win. I don't think it can win anything else. So it'd be the one place where we can acknowledge the Fabelmans.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that it has a shot here. I will say, if there is another upset and it's All Quiet on the Western Front, I will absolutely rejoice. The score to that film is so good. It's my 1B here.
Me too.
As much as I love Babylon, and like those 2 are easily, and like Banshees though, that score is also maybe a little underrated. I think nobody really talks about it because of the performances and the direction and the writing. The score is one of the better elements of that film, I think. But in terms of this race, I still think it's Babylon. All Quiet is right there, though. And I'd be really happy if that one stole it, though. As much as I love Justin Hurwitz and want him to win here, though.
What I feel like my blindside, man, Oscar night is right now I'm only predicting All Quiet to win 2 categories, and it has 9 nominations. Like All Quiet might win like 4 or 5. Like that could happen. And so I'm a little bit like, man, am I thinking like too small with this movie? Like, is it going to do really well and win a lot of technical stuff? Like that could happen, like sound and some of these categories that I'm thinking will go a different direction. Well, so we'll see what happens on Oscar night.
And that's a really great point. 9 nominations is not nothing.
That's a lot.
And
it did very well at BAFTA too. It won Best Picture and Director.
Yeah.
So
you
I feel like I might be underestimating it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting about this, because if they nominate it in 9 different categories, you have to think they love this movie. The voters do. But are they willing to award it with the actual Oscar? Yeah, it's a different question, but To your point though, maybe it does walk away with some surprises here, and that'll be fun. Because as we go here, I think there's going to be some categories that seem like they're locks, unless there's massive detours, which again would be fun. But for categories like original score, could there be some sleight of hand? Just to make the night fun. Who knows?
That's why it's really tricky to predict a category like this. And when I don't know, when there's like 4 potential winners, I just go with the one that I really love.
Fair enough. I think that's where we're at. I think we can end it there. So Babylon for you as well.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going.
And Justin Hurwitz, and one other point about it is he did win 2 Oscars in 2017 for La La Land, so they like him and his work, also for his Giselle movie. So that I think helps him too.
And they should give him 2 Oscars this year, one for Babylon and one for retrospectively snubbing First Man. They need to give him an Oscar as an apology for missing out on that movie, because goddamn, the score for that film is incredible. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for indulging me there on my rant. I will step off my pedestal and move on to Best Visual Effects. The nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Top Gun Maverick. All right, lead the way, my friend. Brian, what do you have for this category?
I don't know. I feel like this is one of the 5 or 6 that are pretty easy to call. I can't imagine Avatar losing this. That would be bizarre. Like, what if they called All Quiet in this one? I'd be like, okay, maybe it is winning Best Picture. I don't know.
Well, and that's, I hear what you're saying, and yes, it feels crazy to think that Avatar will lose this. And you're probably right. The Avatar likely has this in the bag.
Yeah.
But in terms of craft, like just looking at that on its own terms in a microcosm, like in a vacuum, I feel so much the same about this category as Best Original Score. I love at least 4 of these categories for Best Visual Effects. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, a movie that I don't love. It's nothing against that film. I just think the other 4 nominees here are stronger in this category. Top Gun Maverick, The Batman, All Quiet, very, very good in terms of visual effects. All Quiet especially, I think, is remarkable when you think about what that film was able to achieve in terms of its visual prowess and how immersive that film is, how visceral it is. And a lot of it comes down to its visuals and immersing us into that absolutely horrific situation. So when we're talking about these things, like from an objective point of view, you can't really deny the effects and the visuals of All Quiet. So like, as much as Goat Cameron has this in the bag, I don't know if it should be that easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I feel like when you think of visual effects, I mean, Avatar: The Way of Water is so stunning in terms of its visual effects for the whole movie, whereas I think all of these other movies have a lot of scenes without visual effects. I think it's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and maybe this comes down to a more of a broader philosophical debate to have at another time, because one thing that we often talk about on the show is the difference between the best of something and the most of something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, especially with the Oscars and award season, they always love the most of something. Mm-hmm. And that can be a double-edged sword. I mean, sometimes that's a great thing. And, like with Avatar: The Way of Water, there's no denying the visual effects there. But, that can also lead to things like Bohemian Rhapsody and all the nominations it got, which was not as deserving, I don't think, but it was a lot. That film had a lot of what it was doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think there should be, and again, this is a broad philosophical conversation as far as awarding, looking at, discussing, channeling the discourse to what is the best of this category? And it doesn't often have to be the most. I mean, we could even have that conversation with best original score, right? Because John Williams, what he brings to that film is not the most score.
Yeah.
That's Babylon.
Yeah.
The score to that film is incessant. It never stops.
Yeah.
What John Williams brings to The Fabelmans is much more restrained and much more elegant. So I mean, that's perhaps, again, we can discuss that all we
It's
want,
going to be Avatar.
and it's going to be Avatar. Look, I'm just trying to have a conversation here.
It's one of the very few categories that we can just be like, it's this. Like most of these, there's 2 or 3 that could win.
Okay, so a lot of talk there, and a lot of me probably wasting time to say that Avatar: The Way. I am predicting Avatar: The Way of Water, but I at least wanted to champion some of these other films because I do think the effects in the other nominees here, at least All Quiet, The Batman, and Top Gun Maverick, are incredible and very seamless and immersive. All right. I guess we can move on to Best Sound then.
Best Sound.
All right, here we got All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Elvis, and Top Gun Maverick. Brian, what do you got for this category?
I think this is the one category we give it to Top Gun Maverick. I will be very surprised if Top Gun Maverick goes away empty-handed. I feel like the movie wins something. And I don't think visual effects is where we give it something. Sound makes sense to me. I think a lot of people are also leaning towards film editing, but we'll get to that category. I think sound is the one that makes the most sense to me. Although All Quiet on the Western Front could win sound. If Top Gun Maverick wasn't here, I would go with All Quiet hands down. So I do think All Quiet could win. And then in the past, a lot of movies nominated for Best Sound that have songs in them, a lot of music songs, can win this. So Elvis isn't out of it either. But I do think it's down to All Quiet and Top Gun Maverick. And I just don't see them letting Top Gun Maverick walk away empty-handed. That's win something, right?
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think that's absolutely the argument here. Now, this is an interesting category for me in the sense that I'm a little bit on the other side of the spectrum to what I was just talking about with best visual effects. Because if I was an Oscar voter, this one I don't have to think about. This is an easy one. This is 2 seconds of me looking at the title and simply checking the box, and that's All Quiet on the Western Front. Easily my winner in this category. But that said, Top Gun Maverick's got to win something. It saved Hollywood.
Yeah.
It saved the theatrical distribution, so you have to award it something. And if it's not going to be visual effects, which is, again, understandable, Goat Cameron's going to win that category. So this will come down to Top Gun Maverick winning for Best Sound, which I don't have a problem with. It is a worthy winner, even if my personal pick would be All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah. Yeah. All Quiet would be great. I mean, I think if All Quiet wasn't going to win anywhere else, if that were happening, then maybe it would be a bigger player here. But I just think when people are voting for sound, I feel like they're going to remember all of those sequences, especially in the last hour of Top Gun Maverick, that is just spectacular sound design all the way through that just almost blows you out of your seat. It's so great. So
the spectacle is great. Look, when I talk about All Quiet, I'm not taking anything away from Top Gun Maverick. You're right. I mean, the spectacle of Top Gun Maverick is great. Sound is certainly a big part of it as well. I just can't escape the visceral nature of All Quiet on the Western Front is one of the most visceral experiences I've had in a long time. And a lot of it comes down to the sound design of that film and the score and how those two things complement each other. But the soundscape of All Quiet is just disturbing in the best way, cinematically speaking. So that would be my vote, but I'm with you at the end of the day. Top Gun Maverick will win this. And I have no problem with that. Yeah. All right, best production design. So All Quiet on the Western Front once again. Avatar: The Way of Water, Babylon, Elvis, and The Fabelmans. Brian, what do you got here?
So I think this one comes down to Babylon versus Elvis. I think one of those two wins this. All Quiet could maybe be a spoiler, but I think I'm leaning toward Babylon just because I feel like that production design really stands out. That mansion party in the first hour is like spectacular production design.
Yeah.
But then here we are again. I'm like, so I mean, that's what my article this morning. I'm like, can Babylon win 2 when it's only in 3 technical categories? What I'm really struggling with when I'm predicting here, spoiler alert, I'm not predicting Elvis to win anything. And I think Elvis is going to win at least 1 or 2. I just don't know which categories I'm wrong.
That's
for me. Is like, maybe I should be predicting Elvis for production design. But when I think about the two, they're very neck and neck for me. I just love the look of a lot of these sets and things. And Babylon. Yeah. Now, I looked earlier today, like, do you need a Best Picture nomination to win in production design? And I think the last movie to win production design without a Best Picture nomination was The Great Gatsby 9 years ago. So it's very hard.
That movie.
Baz Luhrmann. And I went, oh shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, maybe, but I've made predictions in the last 10 days, and I'm really big on like, once I make my final prediction, I don't like start changing it. Like a lot of people, I think like Sunday morning, they're like, I'm going to change 7. I usually just kind of go with my gut, and then I just stick with it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm like on Sunday morning, like, well, wait, I'm going to predict Elvis now in 4 categories, and then I get most of those wrong, then I just like, I'd rather just stick with my initial kind of gut feeling about some of these things. Okay. I do feel like the category Babylon has a better chance in winning might be score, and production design I'm a little more iffy about. When I looked at the statistics earlier, the movie before that won without a picture nomination was Alice in Wonderland in 2011.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, they gave that production design. I mean, I don't just kind of, but when you think like 2015 to last year, it's always gone to a picture nominee. And the last one that didn't get it from a picture nominee was a Baz Luhrmann movie. I'm like, oh, maybe that's a sign, Brian, that this is going to Elvis. So Elvis probably will win, I guess, but I would rather Babylon win this one. I love the production design of that movie.
So it sounds like your head and your heart here are really conflicted. Yeah.
My head is saying it's probably Elvis, but I'm going to go with Babylon anyway.
Okay.
I'm not a huge Elvis fan is part of it. Like I liked it, and I haven't thought about it since June, and I'm just like, how is this movie doing so well? Part of it. And so I think Babylon's a much better movie, but it's also, Elvis is better liked by most people over Babylon. Babylon flopped at the box office, and a lot of people didn't like it. So it's probably going to be Elvis, but I'm going with Babylon. Sorry.
I love that. And in a lot of ways, I'm with you. Babylon, if I was a voter, Babylon would likely be my vote here. I mean, it's hard to deny the set design of that film and the scale of it. I mean, for a film that takes place in Hollywood, I mean, it's incredible, like what they're able to do with an orgy party sequence in a mansion. It feels like it's 6 different worlds all at once.
So immersive.
It is. It's incredible. Or you think about the sequence where you have the 3 different movies kind of all taking place at once. Like it just the entire production design and all of that is fantastic. I think there's an argument to be made with All Quiet once again because of the dirty, rugged look of that film, and again how immersive it is. I think they do a great job. But I don't know, like maybe this is just gut instinct. And also I think you sort of talked me into it. Like, I think I will predict Elvis to win this.
Yeah. For
the reasons you talked about. It's, people like the Academy seems to love this film for whatever reasons. I liked it. Okay. I didn't hate the movie like many did, but
yeah, I was kind of in the middle. I didn't hate it.
I'm kind of in the middle. It's certainly fine. I guess if anything, like its production design is well done for the most part. Especially a lot of the Las Vegas stuff at the end is very good.
Yeah.
And Babylon is one of those divisive movies that I could just see a lot of people not wanting to give it any sort of attention at all.
Yeah.
So they're just going to throw their vote at the Best Picture nominee and Elvis for this one.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
So, and the other thing is that, Elvis is in a lot more categories, including picture, including best actor. So I feel like more Academy members will watch Elvis.
Yes.
Whereas Babylon's only in 3 technical. So there might be some voters who just don't get around to it, or maybe watch part of it and they're not as into it. Like, so that could also be an issue too.
Yeah. And they've heard about the divisiveness and just avoid it altogether, sadly.
So, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to just kind of be in my head thinking like it's probably going to be Elvis, but I'm going to go with Babylon.
Okay. Yeah, that's very, very fair. I do understand that. So, all right, let's move on to best makeup and hairstyling. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Elvis, and The Whale making an appearance here. Brian, what do you got for this category?
So last week I posted a video on my YouTube channel predicting the below the line categories, and this was the category I got the most flack for because I'm predicting The Whale, and everybody said that's not happening. Elvis is winning in this category at a lot of the precursors. Like Elvis is taking this is what everyone said. So I think I guess Elvis is going to win, but I'm still going to predict The Whale.
Okay. No, that's very fair. And is this, maybe another example of what I was saying earlier between, where you have the best of something versus the most of something, at least in voters' eyes? Because when you're looking at makeup and hairstyling for The Whale, I would think most people are simply going to talk about Brendan Fraser, right?
Not so much Sadie Sink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she looks like a perfectly good, normal teenager in that film. Yeah. Where Elvis has so much more going on to it. Now, there's the Tom Hanks element, which is a little more obvious, I guess, but there's everything with the Elvis character and really all of the characters, right? Because it's a period piece, so they have to kind of tailor to that. So there's certainly a lot more going on in something like Elvis. I don't know if I see any of these other nominees, kind of leading the charge here in this category. Although, again, I will make the argument for All Quiet on the Western Front because it's one of the best films of the year. But I think I'm going to predict Elvis here because I just think there's a lot of love within the Academy for this film. Would I be surprised if you're right and it is The Whale? No. And then you'll be able to turn around against all those people and go, look.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I part of me thinks that reading those comments and looking back, it's like, yeah, maybe like the one category Elvis is kind of guaranteed might be this one. They might be right. But I'm just like, here's my thing is I really detest the Tom Hanks character in Elvis. And I do not like the makeup and hairstyling look to him.
I don't think it's good either. Yeah. I don't think
that was my reasoning. I was like, they do a good job with Austin Butler, but I just don't like the nose and it just is like, I don't like it. It feels very strange to me. And I don't see like why that should be an Oscar winning makeup and hairstyling. It just that doesn't. Whereas I feel like in The Whale, like that movie is so serious and so like such a quiet drama. That movie lives or dies by the makeup and prosthetic makeup mostly job they do on Brendan Fraser. If that looked like the makeup prosthetic job for Tom Hanks, like the Whale just completely fails. Like it needed to look very real when he moves around his apartment. And I never flinched. Like I thought the makeup job on Brendan Fraser is really well done in that movie.
Yeah,
so I feel like a
agree.
lot of people. I feel like some people will vote for it. I don't think it's like a third place title here. I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of credence to what you're saying there. And while The Whale is another one of those divisive movies, I feel like most of the conversation is around the screenplay and the meanness of that film and how people find it appalling. And I do think there's genuine criticisms to be had at the film in that regard. But I don't think, I at least I haven't read too much on the makeup and hairstyling as being one of the major reasons the film falters, because I don't think that's the case. I agree with you. The makeup and the suit and everything that goes into making that character what it is very believable.
Yeah.
There's an authenticity to that. and Brendan Fraser has talked about how they put a lot of thought into it regarding gravity and how the body works in that way, whereas Tom Hanks and Elvis, it looks completely manufactured.
Kind of goofy.
It's goofy. It
doesn't look right.
Funny. Yeah, I agree. I do think there's a lot to Elvis that is very good aside from that.
Yeah.
Especially with the Elvis character, but that is to say, I understand wholeheartedly where you're coming from there. I'm only predicting Elvis because I think that's what the Academy loves. I think they love that movie, so that's where they're going to go.
Yeah, I think I'm just going with my heart too much this time, and it's going to bite me in the ass on Sunday.
Fair enough. What would your personal vote be of these 5 if you had a vote?
I mean, I'd lean towards The Whale, but I really love the makeup and hairstyling in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I think that would be a good one too.
Okay. Personally, again, my vote would go to All Quiet.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Again, I just go back to how immersive that film is. And as the moral of it becomes all the more murky and muddy, the characters literally become all the more murky and muddy, aesthetically speaking. And they do such a great job of embodying that with the characters, whether it be on the boots or on their clothes. And the film, like within the cinematography, emphasizes that. There's a whole scene, there's close-ups of the characters' faces just covered in mutton, sweat, and blood that I think is incredible. That just kind of heightens a lot of what that film is going for thematically. So it's not conventional when you think about the Oscars and that category, but I think there's actually a lot more going on there than...
Watch All Quiet, just clean house, man. It wins sound, it wins makeup and hairstyling, and I'm over here going, oh my God.
I would love it. That'd be awesome.
Should have predicted more All Quiet.
Yeah. I would love nothing more than to be wrong and All Quiet just cleans house. That would be incredible. All right, let's get to Best Film Editing. The nominees here are The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick. Brian, what do you got for this category?
I think this one is Everything Everywhere All at Once. The editor keeps winning stuff. Like he won at the Ace Eddie Awards the other night. He won at the Independent Spirit Awards. He won at BAFTA. Everything Everywhere was nominated for like 8 to 10 BAFTA awards, and it only won editing. So they didn't seem to like the movie that much to give it prizes, but they acknowledged the editing. So in like January, I was thinking Top Gun Maverick, like the editing of the flying scenes in that movie are really spectacular, like really well done. But I do think this goes to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, so I'm going to sound completely contradictory here. So earlier I was talking about, this dichotomy of best and most. And I am, like when it comes to film and art, I love restraint. I love subtlety. Those kinds of performances and films tend to really work for me in a deep way a lot of the time. Now, that said, it's not, mutually exclusive, right? Sometimes the best editing is the most editing. And I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is quintessential to that idea, because the editing of that film is astounding. It really is great. From the first time you see that film way back in April of last year, May, whenever it came out, I think we all had an idea what was going to win best editing, and it was going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, at the time, I didn't know that it would become this huge juggernaut and it would snowball, and it's now the leading contender for Best Picture and Director and all of the acting categories, which we'll get to here shortly. But walking out of that theater the first time, I mean, one of the things that is top of mind is, man, that is one of the best edited films I've ever seen. And it is the most editing. It is the most editing I've maybe ever seen in a film. But it is so good, and it's done with incredible precision. And it's astounding how incisive it is, despite the fact that we are jumping from one timeline to the next constantly, right? I mean, and sometimes often very rapidly, where we're jumping from, the Rock, universe to the Fingers one, back to, the Office version of these characters. Like, and you're doing it so quickly, but everything makes so much sense and often brings pathos to the film. Like, I don't, how many times on this show I've talked about one of the most moving images of 2022 is the Wayman sequence near the end, or the Evelyn sequence that follows it, where you just cut to a rock falling down a hillside, and I burst into tears. Like, it's incredible what a simple edit and a simple image can do emotionally. And the editing of that film makes sense of that pathos, more so than any dialogue or performance. It's incredible. So
yeah, I just feel like the winner in this category should be where like the editing like is a major factor in the movie, and I don't know how Everything Everywhere exists on it on the level it reaches without that really impressive editing. Like the movie really flounders if the editing isn't strong.
I agree. And so much of the storytelling is reliant on editing. The performances are key to that as well, which is probably why they're all nominated as well. And the directing, I'm not surprised to see that it is being nominated and sweeping so many of these awards, because they are all working so congruently with one another. And if one falters, then it's, maybe the potency isn't quite what it is, but everything is working on that same wavelength, and it just becomes an incredible, powerful experience. And a lot of it does come down to the editing. So that's going to be a deserved winner. I
also think it's interesting in that the top two contenders for this prize, Top Gun Maverick and Everything Everywhere, like they both shot before the pandemic, and they had like years to edit the movie. Like they give Everything Everywhere. They shot Everything Everywhere in January, February of 2020. If they had like a release date of September of 2020, maybe the editing wouldn't be as good. I think they had a long time to work with the footage and try things like throughout 2020 and 21. I think that helped too.
That's a really great point. Absolutely. Looking forward to that film winning that category. All right, let's get to Best Costume Design. The nominees are Babylon, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. All right, Brian, what do you got for this one?
Wouldn't that be a fun win? So I think I might be wrong on this one too, but I am just dazzled by the costume design in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Okay, nice. Okay.
I feel like that movie deserves to win something. What gives me a little bit of pause there is that, of course, it's not in Best Picture, and Ruth Carter won for the costume design of Black Panther in 2019. And part of me is like, well, are they just going to give it to the same person for the same world 4 years later? Like, maybe not. But I felt sense. Like she outdid herself in the sequel. Like, for me, I was kind of like 7 out of 10 on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. But the thing I loved the most while watching it was really the costumes of all the characters. And there's so many outlandish, like, costume design choices throughout that really help kind of single out who each character is. And that would be that's what I would pick. Now I'm kind of like, this might go to every. I don't think Babylon gets this one. I think this is the one where Babylon doesn't win. But
okay.
Like that would be if Babylon won all three of its nominees. That would be.
Could you imagine?
But again, this could go to Elvis. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once could maybe take it. It won something recently in costume design in the last week or two. I read it like won a costume design award.
Okay.
And I don't know if Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I think that's what it was. It won, Everything Everywhere won a costume design prize for like fantasy comedy category or something over Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
And so I'm like, is this going to get swept up in, Everything Everywhere, taken picture and director? Like, I do think Everything Everywhere wins one, maybe two technical categories if it's going to get picture and director. So this might be one where they check it off the list. And it does have great costumes in it. I mean, some of Stephanie Shu's moments, like some of the costumes are great. So it wouldn't be my choice though. Like, I don't think it's worthy of a win, but I would love Babylon to win, although I don't think it has a shot here. My choice would be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and that's what I'm predicting, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a fair argument there, and we'll see if the redundancy factor is at play when it comes to the actual voting. when it comes to my prediction here, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm going with Elvis for the same reasons we've talked about with the other categories. I just think the Academy loves this film, and they're going to award it where they can, especially because there's an argument to be made that Austin Butler does not take actor. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if he doesn't win, I think they're going to want to award it in other areas. And when you're talking about some of these below the line categories and the text of it, I just kind of foresee it kind of taking a lot of these. Whether it's deserved or not is a different conversation. But at the end of the day, I think Elvis. I'm predicting Elvis to win. What do I want to win here? Probably Babylon of these five, or Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I'm a little bit torn on that because Everything Everywhere All at Once. You're right. The costume design of the film is great, especially with Stephanie Sue and everything that involves her in the film. At the same time, though, it's going to win so many other categories that I'm okay if this is one of them that loses and we can award something different, such as Black Panther or Babylon. I think that would be a lot of fun. Or even Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Let's throw a curveball out there. I mean, let's really get weird. That'd be great.
I mean, I think it's hard. What Cruella last year, did it only have 2 nominations? Like, it didn't have very many.
Yeah.
And that one costume design last year.
So you never know with a category like this.
But that would be pretty wild if they opened the envelope and said Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is expecting that per se. Like I said, that would be a curveball. But it would be fun. But I hate to be mundane with this pick, but I'm going with Elvis.
I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to come on here and just be like, just totally like 100%. Oh, this is winning this is winning that. I'm just being honest by saying,
no, I love that. I love that.
I'm not like, some years I feel pretty good. Like, some years I go into it, I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to get 19 or 20 out of 23 here. I feel good. This year, I'm a little bit like, I'm going a little bit more with my heart than I should, and I recognize that. Because you've said Elvis, or so far you've predicted it for 3, right?
Yes.
So you predicted 3 Elvis. I have 0. I feel like it can't possibly. I feel like it's much more likely to go your way than mine.
But I love that. Like, and it's funny because I'm the
Elvis
one that
is winning something.
Yeah, I usually wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I think that's why I'm trying to parcel through what I'm predicting versus what I would vote for or what I want to win, because those are obviously 2 different things. And I love though that even when it comes to the predictions, you're still like, screw it, I'm going with my heart anyway. Like I love that. Like those that kind of honesty is what I enjoy.
Okay, when they announce Elvis's costume design, I'll go, okay, yeah. But if like they somehow say Black Panther, I'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, it'd be more exciting.
No, but, that's a great way to approach it. No,
but some years, I mean, remember last year, didn't Dune just win like everything in technical? It just kept winning. Like, it won like 5 or 6. It was just like Dune. And that's what I just, on my ballot, I was like, Dune. And then it won everything. And so it's easier that way. But then you get to a year like this where, well, we got a lot of contenders here, a lot of films that could win this or that, and it's like you just kind of gotta go with your gut sometimes. That's what I'm doing, and probably wrong. But.
Yeah, no, I love that, and again, like I'm predicting Elvis in these categories, but if they lose and it becomes something else, I'll be excited for that. Like because there's other nominees here I much prefer. So we'll see how it plays out.
I'm hoping one of those 3 that you predicted Elvis, one of those goes my way. I can be like, yes.
And we'll see. And you might be right. It'll be fun to listen to this in retrospect. All right, let's talk about best cinematography. And this is a category that I do not understand, but here are the nominees. All Quiet on the Western Front, Bardo, Elvis, there it is again, Empire of Light, and Tar. All right, Brian, what do you got?
So this category is a little tricky for me because I interviewed one Oscar nominee on my YouTube channel this season.
That was very good.
I interviewed Florian Hofmeister, cinematographer of Tar. I think the look of that movie is really, really striking. I think part of the reason I love it is just kind of the sleekness of that movie, and every shot is so clearly, not stylized, but like really thought through, and you really kind of get immersed in Lydia Tarr's world in that movie. So that would be my pick here. Although I'm predicting All Quiet wins cinematography. I don't know how you don't award All Quiet here. It is a visually sumptuous, striking movie. Like it's a visual feast the whole time. Whether it's a quiet scene indoors or you have all of the war scenes outside, the battle scenes. Like, I think All Quiet wins cinematography.
Yeah, and I mentioned that this is a category I don't understand. 3 of these nominees. What are you doing?
Yeah.
All Quiet, though, and Tar. Those 2 are well deserved. Absolutely love those nominees being here. The other 3, and Bardo, I can at least appreciate and respect. I do think the cinematography there is actually very good. I don't love the film on the whole. It wouldn't have cracked a top 5 for me, but it is one that I can at least admire because I do think the cinematography to that film is genuinely very good. Elvis and Empire of Light, I don't know what's happening there. That is baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Empire of Light is just here because of the name Roger Deakins, because it's not a good movie. Like, I finally watched it a few weeks ago, and boy, I was like, this is not good for a Sam Mendes movie. This is just kind of
it's not struggle. Good. Yeah, and Empire of Light is one of those movies where cherry picking is a must. I feel like, because you can pick out like 3 or 4 images, throw those on Twitter, and go, look at this. It's incredible. And yeah, you're right. There are 4 images. There are 4 frames in that film that are very good. The rest of the movie is trash. It is not very good. It doesn't look good. It is not a visually lush film at all. It's one of Deakins' worst efforts, I think. Now, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. It does not belong in this conversation. It is a visually tepid movie.
Yeah, I don't think Deakins did anything wrong. I think the movie looks great. It just the story doesn't work, and that's the problem.
That too. That too.
Now Elvis isn't out of it. Elvis won a major cinematography prize in the last week. I can't remember, was it ASC or something? It surprised a few nights ago. It took a big cinematography prize, and it would be the first time we reward a woman in best cinematography for Elvis. So that would be big
cool.
Too.
Yeah.
So Elvis isn't out of it either.
Yeah, now I would absolutely respect and appreciate that element of it. I don't think Elvis should be here though in terms of cinematography.
It's not one of my favorites.
But that said,
Top Gun Maverick should be here.
Yes, I completely agree.
That's crazy that Top Gun Maverick's not in this category. It's bizarre.
I don't understand. I don't understand that either. I will say though, a lot of the punditry I've seen is talking about Tar and All Quiet as the 2 leading contenders here. So that does give me hope that despite the nomination process and how we got to this point, that at the end of it, we're going to get, hopefully anyway, fingers crossed, we're going to get a genuinely fantastic winner, whether it be All Quiet or Tar. I love Tar, love the cinematography to that film. I think you make a lot of great points. If it wins, I'll be more than thrilled. My vote personally and my prediction here, though, is All Quiet.
Yeah.
For a lot of the same reasons I've been talking about in terms of how immersive it is, how great it looks, and why the imagery to this film is not only striking, but important to the tone of it, to the emotion of it, how things crystallize in the end. That film is so visually evocative, but also prosaic all at the same time. Like, it looks great, but also it's just, everything's just so harrowing, and how it kind of blurs those lines is really quite remarkable. So I'm picking All Quiet here, but again, if Tar wins, I'll be more than happy. So
Florian Hoffmeister, in our conversation at the end, he said, I'm not winning. Yeah, I'm not
okay.
winning. So I'm like, I kind of want to see the shocked expression on his face. Like, wouldn't that
would be cool? Yeah. That would be cool.
He's been shooting the new season of he's been shooting a show in Iceland, True Detective. He's doing the new season with Jodie Foster.
Okay, nice.
And he's been in Iceland for like 6 months, but they're letting him leave for the Oscars.
You have to. It's the Oscars.
Like, he gets to leave for that. but he's like, I'm not winning. So I kind of want them to say his name. That would be cool.
Yeah. Just go.
And he would just be like,
hey, if it was me, I'd go and just have a good time and go to the parties and drink my face off and then go back to work the next day.
He won cinematography at Independent Spirit last weekend. That was cool. It was the only Tar win. Yeah. And he wasn't there. I was like, I freaked out. I was like, oh, is he there? And he wasn't there.
No, it wasn't. All right. So that should be, hopefully we'll at least get a good winner with that category, despite how confusing it is. Let's get to Best International Feature. The nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Argentina 1985, Close, EO, and The Quiet Girl. What do you got for this one, Brian?
There are two categories that are just like, that there's no way that anything else can win, and this is one of them. It's All Quiet. I don't see how anything can beat a movie that's in it's got 9 nominations. Every other movie in this category, it's the only nomination, right? Like there's no other nominations for the other 4 movies, so it has to be All Quiet.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to nominate a movie 9 times, like it would also be the most Academy thing to do. Nominate a movie 9 times. Yeah. I mean,
donkey.
I'm going to laugh. So you will be the first person I tweet when that happens. Like,
what? Like, watch All Quiet. It wins sound. It wins like 5 technicals, but it loses international feature. Then I just throw the ballot out. Then I'm just like, I'm not even gonna look at it.
Exactly.
Like I just rip it up.
Exactly. Like we're done here. Who knows?
And just
what's
settle
happening?
in.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, okay.
Exactly.
I'm getting a 7 out of 23 here, or whatever.
100%. I'm also predicting All Quiet. You have to predict All Quiet on the Western Front here, whether it's your favorite or not.
Issues. You would have to have issues to
exactly
for another movie. Or I mean, just Argentina in 1985 did win in this category at the Golden Globes.
You did. Yeah.
It's the only argument you could possibly make. But anything but All Quiet would be the shocker of the night.
Yeah. The other 4 nominees, welcome to the show. Enjoy it, and just sit there and have a good time. Like that's what. And I
haven't seen Close or The Quiet Girl yet, but I want to.
Close is very good. I loved Close. It was borderline top 20 of the year for me.
Oh, good. Okay.
EO I also really liked.
I saw that the other day. It's really nice. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Argentina 1985 I think is a good movie. Like it's a solid political thriller.
Yeah.
The Quiet Girl I haven't seen, but All Quiet on the Western Front I think is just one of the best war movies we've ever seen.
It's my third favorite film of the year, so that should win here.
Yeah. I'm exactly 100%. All right, Best Documentary Feature. The nominees are All That Breathes, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, A House Made of Splinters, and Navalny. What do you got for this category, Brian?
So this category, I'm just going with the one that I loved the most, and that's Fire of Love. I just thought that was a great movie. And then I predicted it last week, and everyone was like, oh, no, it's going to Navalny. It won at PGA, and it won like 2 other documentary prizes. But Fire of Love, didn't it win? I think it won a DGA. It won like the directing prize for documentary there. And then I think it won something else in the last few days, like one other. It's like Navalny's won 2 big ones, and then Fire of Love has won 2 big ones. So you could kind of argue either way. And then All the Beauty and the Bloodshed got lots of critics prizes throughout the fall. Like it won at Venice in Best Documentary, and that's done very well too. So I think this is down to 3 titles. It could kind of go to any one of the 3. I think the other 2 are out. So I'm going with Fire of Love.
Okay, yeah, Fire of Love is a very good movie. I saw that at Sundance. Was that last year premiere at Sundance? I guess it had to have been.
Was it a Sundance movie, Fire of Love?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's where I first saw it.
So maybe it was January of 22 at Sundance?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Very good movie. One of my very favorite movies I saw at Sundance. And held up throughout the year. I mean, it was in my top 5 at the midway point, ended up being one of my favorite movies of the year. My vote for best documentary of all of 2022, though, is All That Breeze, actually.
Yeah, that's a good one, too.
It's unfortunate that it's not in the race. And it's interesting to me because All That Breeze is not only one of the best documentaries of last year and maybe it's because we just got done talking about cinematography. All That Breeze is a genuinely great film from a cinematography perspective. You could have nominated it in that category. It's that well shot. So it is unfortunate that it's not going to be in this race. Although I do think it actually won the documentary competition at Sundance last year. All That Breeze is the one that won. So at least on
I just think it's
world.
I think it's a little bit quieter, more reserved. I don't think enough people.
Which as I talked about earlier, like I love those kind of if you give me a quiet, subtle, methodical movie, I'm on board. Like I'm all in.
Yeah, the only one I haven't seen here is A House Made of Splinters. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. But because of that style and approach, I can see why All That Breeze is not going to be for everybody, and why you'll vote for something like Navalny, which is much more conventional in style, which is why it's one of my least like of the four that I've seen listed here, it's my least favorite. Now it is good, but it's just very formulaic in terms of structure and style.
Right.
Now the content is remarkable. It is incredible what they were able to capture given the political tension at the center of the film. And you have a figure so prominent in Russia willing to get on camera the way he does here and to be as vulnerable as he is. The content, undeniable. I just think from a filmmaking craft perspective, it's lukewarm comparatively to these other three that are doing so much more in terms of ambition. So I don't know. It's with that said, it's hard for me to say like how the Academy is going to vote because Navalny is easily the most attainable of the five, or at least of the four that I've seen. I haven't seen House of Flames.
Yeah.
But.
I feel like the smart choice here might be Navalny because it won at PGA, and it seems to be the one that I feel like a lot of Academy members really go for it. It's very immediate, in your face. It tells a very topical, important story of recent years. So that kind of makes sense to me. I love a good documentary love story, and I thought Fire of Love it swept me away. I thought it did a good job into showcasing a tragedy, but not having it be like super dour and depressing. Like it was still uplifting at the end, and I felt like it was an important story to tell, and they did it really well. So that's the one I just like the most. So that's the one I'm voting for.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. This is another heart and head category for me as well. I mean, my heart leans with Fire of Love, at least. If All That Breeze isn't in contention, but Fire of Love is, then that my heart is there, and that's the one I hope wins.
Yeah.
But my head is telling me to go with Navalny. So that's going to be my prediction, even though I hope that Fire of Love breaks through there. We shall see on that category. All right, let's get to Best Animated Feature. The nominees are Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and that's all that matters. Moving on to
basically, there's nothing to talk about in this category. I mean, like, I guess Puss in Boots might have like a 0.1% chance, but it's going to be Pinocchio.
It's going to be Pinocchio.
It's won everything.
Puss in Boots was one of the better surprises of last year. I don't think anyone anticipated that film being as good as it is. It is very good. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, I think, is also quite great.
Very good.
Like
Turning Red's really good.
Yeah, that's like a 1B for me. I don't think that film is really that far behind Pinocchio for me. The Sea Beast I thought was nice. Was a nice surprise as well. Turning Red, I liked. So I do like these nominees, but when we're talking about predictions here, there's only one film to talk about.
I wonder if Turning Red had come out in like December in theaters, like maybe it would have been a different story. But it came out way back in early March. I think didn't it just drop on Disney Plus?
Yes. Yeah.
So that
like early in the year.
Yeah. It was very, very early in 2022.
Yeah, and honestly,
I heard Everything Everywhere has done well, and that dropped like in late March, early April. So it's not the case for every movie, but
exactly. And Turning Red is one of those movies where, and because it's dropped on Disney Plus early in the year, if it didn't have the Pixar label, I don't know if it gets nominated at all.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
really good though.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, no, I wonder if that is the case, but. It is a deserved nominee. I do quite like it as well. But yeah, Pinocchio going to win that category. All right, let's get to screenplay. We'll start with adapted screenplay. The nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, a Knives Out story, Living, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. Brian, what do you got for this category?
So this category comes down to All Quiet on the Western Front and Women Talking. And I feel like it can go either way. I am predicting Women Talking because that just feels to me like a screenplay that deserves to win versus All Quiet, which for me is a little bit more of a visual immersive experience.
Yeah.
But I do think All Quiet could take it since it has the 9 nominations and a lot of people will be watching it. But Women Talking has won some stuff. It just won the USC Scripter Prize. It won at WGA a few nights ago. So Women Talking's in it, and it's got that Best Picture nomination. If Women Talking was not in picture and it was just this one nomination, I would predict All Quiet. But I do feel like because it's in picture, a lot of people are going to watch it, and they might recognize how important the screenplay is to the success of that movie. It's so dependent on the script. And Sarah Polley is, I feel like, a beloved figure. She was nominated a while back for Away From Her, the Julie Christie movie, in adapted screenplay. People know her as an actor and as a writer-director. And going into the season, a lot of people were predicting Sarah Polley might get into Best Director, might be a big contender there. And so the movies, it's kind of faded a little bit, and it didn't do very well in Oscar nominations morning, but I still feel like Women Talking wins in adapted screenplay. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. And it's picked up some steam with a couple of smaller ceremonies recently. Yeah. This is an interesting category. All Quiet on the Western Front. I agree with you. This is another one of those best versus most situations. Because Women Talking, in terms of screenplay, there's much more to chew on. Absolutely. Yeah. All Quiet doesn't do as much in terms of, separating itself from its predecessor. There, the way it updates certain things, there are character machinations that are new and fresh and fascinating. And all of the stuff with like Daniel Bruhl's character is new and that is great. I loved those additions. Now, does that warrant a win for Best Adapted Screenplay because of those updates? That I don't know, especially because so much of the film, I completely agree, relies on visual storytelling more than the dialogue and the actual writing on the page.
On the page,
yeah, and performance is obviously a big part of it as well. So between those two, I would also go with Women Talking. I think there's much more of an argument between, not necessarily in terms of voting, but like having a conversation about these 5 between Women Talking and Living. Yeah. Because Living does the way it adapts Akira to me is incredible because a lot of it is familiar if you've seen Akira, but it does recontextualize a lot of that, like with its setting and how characters kind of get from A to Z. Like it's familiar, but much of it is also very different. I think there's more that's different in Living than what we saw in All Quiet. And I think the writing is subtly kind of driving a lot as much as the performance is there. And the performance at the center of it is quite phenomenal. So I do love Living here as a nomination. And I will champion defend Top Gun Maverick all day long. I think that screenplay is genuinely great. I think it is very, very good the way it channels not just the bombacity of that original Top Gun, but I've kept calling it Manchester by the Sea in the Sky. Like that's what that movie is in a lot of ways. And I think the dialogue around that, the machinations between Maverick and those around him, especially Bradley, like the way the film kind of, it creates a that dynamic on the page, I just think is wonderful. But all of that to say, there's a fascinating conversation to be had there, but I really want Women Talking to take this. I mean, that'd
be a good win.
It would be a great win. And unlike some of these others, other than Living, you think of Top Gun Maverick, All Quiet. I guess there's an argument there with Glass Onion because there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of machinations on the page there as well. But Women Talking is it's reliant on that screenplay and the performances to bring those words to life. And, without that screenplay, like these other 4 movies, I think can kind of maneuver around the screenplay a little bit more. Women Talking, like that screenplay is the star of the show.
Yeah.
And it's great. It is very, very good. The performers tap into it immaculately. And I think it's a good movie as a result, but that's
I predicted that Kazuo Ishiguro was going to win an adapted screenplay at BAFTA because he's such a beloved figure. Like he's a very well respected novelist, and I've read some of his books. He is like a brilliant writer. So I was like, I feel like Living will be a BAFTA thing, and they'll give it to him, but they gave it to All Quiet instead. So for me, that was it. I'm like, well, he can't if he can't win this at BAFTA, I don't think he can win it the Oscar.
No. Yeah, that is unfortunate because that screenplay is good.
But the screenplay categories are kind of interesting this year in that, like, the really big heavy hitters in picture, those are all an original screenplay, and then an adapted, it's really just down to All Quiet versus Women Talking. Like, if the Fabelmans had been adapted from something, like if that were here, I'd say maybe Spielberg and Kushner can take it. But because it's really, there's not a whole lot of competition here, I think Sarah Polley wins.
Yeah.
For Women Talking.
Now, I'm right there with you. Speaking of original, let's go ahead and jump to Best Original Screenplay. The nominees here are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. So, Brian, what do you got for this category?
So my vote here would be for the screenplay to Tar. I love that script, but I don't think it wins. A lot of people have said that Banshees could win here. Like Martin McDonagh, like he didn't win for 3 Billboards. The movie's up. Banshees is up for picture and director, and may or may not win supporting actress, as we'll get to. Like, is Banshees going to win something? Like some people have said, we give Banshees original screenplay, but then Everything Everywhere gets like director picture. But it just feels strange to me, like to give Everything Everywhere picture and director, but then we give its original screenplay to something else, when the reason Everything Everywhere is so great is its originality. Like that's why that movie is so great. So I'm predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once here. I think that's going to win.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. This is a tough category for me personally just to consider because The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, and Tar are all in my top 5.
Yep.
All of them are in my personal top 5. The only film missing here that should have this 5th slot instead of Triangle of Sadness should be Charlotte Wells for After Sun.
Oh,
that should be the 5th nominee here. And then my top 5 would make up Best Original Screenplay, like my personal top 5. I mean, that's how strong of a category it is for original this year. To your point, I think those top 4, Banshees, Everything, Fabelmans, and Tar, for me, it's more or less a coin flip. I think the screenplays for all of them are immaculate, really, really good. As far as man, this is like, it's kind of like throwing darts at your favorites.
Yeah.
Like, I guess my personal vote would have to go to Tar because of the complexities at the core of that film. And the writing is just so sharp and biting. But I really do love the emotion and just the wild audacity of something like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That, like, it's kind of a tug of war between those two for me. And honestly, like, I love them equally. Like, it's not rivals. Like, whichever one wins, I'm going to be thrilled. If Banshee somehow steals this and they're like, this is the one we're going to award, we're going to give Martin McDonagh this, which I don't think is going to happen because they'll probably get an acting. Maybe they'll get an acting. Who knows? Or if none of the actors win, this is how they award Banshees. Who knows? I'm just throwing out theories there, or same thing with Fabelmans. Maybe this is the one where they give it to the Fabelmans. At the end of the day, I think this goes to Everything Everywhere All at Once because it's going to sweep all of these top awards probably. But if Tar wins, consider me thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, what we have to remember is that usually there's at least 1 or 2 movies every year that gets 5+ nominations that do go home empty-handed. That happens all the time. So don't think to yourself, each of the Best Picture nominees has to win somewhere. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
like
especially
usually,
when you got 10 of them.
Usually there's a couple. I mean, the one that always comes to mind is I remember when American Hustle just overperformed. It got like 10 nominations, and then it went home with nothing.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good point.
It happens all the time. Color Purple in 85, 86. Color Purple got 11 and went home empty-handed. It happens.
Yeah. And oftentimes with the Academy, what seems obvious to us is not what wins either. So sometimes it's kind of a crapshoot in that way. But with everything kind of sweeping the way it has been, it's hard not to go with that. But
yeah, Banshees could take this, though. It wouldn't surprise me. I think a lot of people, including myself, will predict Everything Everywhere All at Once. That seems like the smart choice here, but Banshees could happen. Like, don't think that won't. Like, that could happen here, too.
Do you think that has more of a shot than Tar? Like, if you just consider voting and statistics? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I think Banshees has a better shot than Tar, just because Banshees is in a few more categories. It has more acting nominations. Yeah. Okay. And I feel like Academy members might like Banshees more than they like Tar as a whole. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, given the nominees here, because they went for all of the actors here,
and Banshees won the Golden Globes over Everything Everywhere in comedy musical, like that one Best Picture at the Golden Globe.
Absolutely, and McDonagh does get in for director as well. I know Todd Field does as well, but they love Banshees. The acting, directing, the writing, it's all there. So. Yeah, I could certainly, like, if it's not going to win the other ones, maybe that is kind of where they throw a vote.
Like, if Steven Spielberg had won DGA and Spielberg was kind of primed to take director, then I would say, okay, we're going to mix it up. Give Fabelman's director, Banshee's original screenplay, and then maybe Everything Everywhere picture, and we're just going to kind of shoot darts
everyone
everywhere.
Gets the love, yeah.
But right now, it looks like director and picture go to Everything Everywhere, so that would be weird to me for the movie to not also win original screenplay.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, all right, so I think we're in agreement there on everything kind of winning that, or we're predicting it for that category. All right, let's get to Best Supporting Actor. We have Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, and Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Ke Huy Quan has been winning so much for this category, but does he win the Oscar, Brian?
Yeah, he does. Like, this is the one easy acting category to call. The only big prize he didn't win was BAFTA. Yeah. We went with, how do you say it? Barry Keoghan? I never know how to say it. I always
Barry
say Keoghan.
I've heard it pronounced like 15 different ways. I don't even know at this point.
Barry. He won at BAFTA, but that kind of felt like a BAFTA thing to do. They clearly didn't really like Everything Everywhere, giving it only Best Editing. So I would think it's like, it would be very shocking if Everything Everywhere is going to win picture and director, like Ke Huy Quan is winning Best Supporting Actor. Just such a great narrative. Mm-hmm. He hasn't acted in a film in 20 years or something like that. He just comes back,
a long time,
roaring back into our hearts with such a great performance, and every speech he gives is so delightful. He has brought me to tears in like two of his speeches. He is like, clearly there's no phoniness. Like, he gets up there,
it's so authentic,
happy to be back and to be so loved by the industry again. Like, you can just feel it, and it's going to be a moment, and it's going to be fantastic. Ke Huy Quan will be our winner for supporting actor.
Yeah, it's a performance that, on its own terms, is extremely deserving. Mm-hmm. That Oscar clip, when they play it, it's going to bring down the house. It's so good. He's phenomenal in that film. It is very well deserved. And if they are considering the narrative, the speeches as they vote, I presume many of them do, then that only, further cements that he's going to win this category. So, and it would be my vote. It would be my personal vote. I think
I would say second place is Judd Hirsch for The Fabelman.
Okay.
Because he hasn't really played a big role this season. I think he only got in at Critics' Choice. Yeah. And he's been nominated before. He's a very beloved figure in the industry, and he's like 87, 88 years old. And since the Fablemans might not win anything the whole night, like Judd Hirsch, it'd be a way
Surprise
to honor
here.
Judd Hirsch,
Yeah.
the last probably chance they have to honor him, and it could be their one chance to honor the Fablemans. So I would put him in second over Barry Keoghan, actually.
Okay.
But I still
Very
think it's a
fascinating.
distant. I still think it's a distant second, though. I don't think we'll ever know, unless they ever one day release the tallies, which I would love. I would sit
They
there
should.
for a weekend and just kind of go through. I would
Transparency.
be so
Come on, Academy. Transparency.
Like some of these wins throughout the years, I'm like, how close was that? Like, was
I would
that
love
like
to
by
know.
3 votes? You know, like we'll never know.
Yeah. And look,
But it's gonna be one.
As we've talked about before, this is a sports competition.
Yeah.
And when you watch sports, you know what the final score is. Give us the final tally. That's all we're asking for. All right, let's get to supporting actress. We have Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for The Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Stephanie Sue also for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Brian, is it Jamie Lee Curtis? Is it Stephanie Sue? Bassett? Does she continue the ball rolling here? What do you got?
This is the hardest category to call in the top 8. Like, this is the really, really tough one because you can make a case, I think. I don't think Stephanie can win. That would be my choice, actually. She's my choice here. I think that would be an amazing win. I think she's the most deserving here. It's the best performance in the category. But I don't think she hasn't won any televised prize, like outside of she won breakthrough performance at Indie Spirits last weekend. That's like the only individual prize she's won. I think she needed to win at SAG for her to have any chance. So I don't think that happens. So I think it could feasibly go to Angela Bassett or Carrie Condon or Jamie Lee Curtis. And it's like, where's the wind blowing here? Like, what? I think it's going to be very close. I think the smart choice is Carrie Condon, because in some ways you could argue that Angela Bassett and Jamie Lee Curtis cancel each other out. They're both kind of the older, kind of the legacy seasoned veteran nominee who everybody loves, but you can kind of like cancel them out. Jamie Lee Curtis is also hurt by having Stephanie Sue in the category, like having both of them there. But that didn't factor in at SAG, so you could argue that too. What a lot of people have said is we got to give Banshee something. It might not win original screenplay. Carrie Condon won at BAFTA, and because the category is so chaotic, we're going to give it to the really great supporting performance in Banshees. Carrie Condon takes it. I'm predicting Angela Bassett, and I'm not confident about this.
Okay.
I was kind of leaning toward Carrie Condon for a few days, but then I remembered Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk, another beloved woman of color who everybody adores. And that movie did not do well at the Oscars. It only got into 3 categories, was not in picture. And Regina King was not nominated at BAFTA or at SAG. She won the Golden Globe. She won Critics' Choice. Basically, took a few nights off the next few weeks, came back, and she won the Oscar. And everybody loves Regina King.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of why she won. And Angela Bassett, I feel like, is just one of the titans in the industry. I have loved her since I was a kid. I saw What's Love Got to Do with It when I was very young, probably too young. And she's so great in that movie. Yeah. She was probably in second place that year. She lost to Holly Hunter for The Piano. I feel like that's one of the acting losses of the 90s that still kind of stings. I still feel like Bassett should have taken it for What's Love Got to Do with It 29 years ago. And she's got 2 dynamic scenes in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And she won the Golden Globe. She won a Critics' Choice. The 2 big pauses I have is that why couldn't she win at SAG? That gives me a little pause. But then I'm like, well, Jamie Lee Curtis won. Maybe it was really close. And Jamie Lee Curtis eked out the win because of the intense love for Everything Everywhere over Black Panther, which isn't like everyone's favorite movie this season.
Yeah.
But so it's her loss at SAG, and it's a Marvel sequel that wasn't like the most beloved blockbuster of the year or anything. Yeah. So that gives me some pause. So I am predicting that the sheer love for Angela Bassett by the entire awards body of the Academy wins the day by just a smidge is what I'm predicting. but I do feel like the smartest choice might be Carrie Condon.
Okay, that's a lot to take in there.
It's a lot.
But
Jamie Lee Curtis has a shot too. That SAG wins big. She could ride that momentum. People love Jamie Lee Curtis, so that could happen too.
Man, I was utterly fascinated that entire time. I guess you were talking about this category because
a lot.
You make it seem like this is really wide open.
Yeah,
and Jamie Lee Curtis, SAG was the only thing that she won. Is that right?
She's only won like an individual prize. Like she won Best Supporting Actress at SAG. Carrie Condon won at BAFTA. Angela Bassett has won 2 major televised prizes, Golden Globe and Critics' Choice.
Well, see, that was really interesting because coming into this category, because I wanted to bring up Carrie Condon, and I wasn't sure like if I was on the outside looking in by picking Carrie Condon because I know she won at BAFTA, but it seems like she's been so far behind in terms of the race comparatively to these others, especially Bassett, who has won these other major awards or these other ceremonies anyway. And Jamie Lee Curtis wins for SAG. Stephanie Sue, had the indie spirits as you're talking about. So it does kind of seem all over the place. I just haven't seen as much conversation around Carrie Condon as much as it's Angela Bassett because of the precursors that she's won and also the power of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Could Jamie Lee Curtis or Sue just ride the momentum of that film and what it's doing across the board in terms of all of these categories? So
I mean, we're pretty close to early 2001 when a different person won Best Supporting Actress at all 5. Like it was the year of like Kate Hudson and Almost Famous, and Frances McDormand and Almost Famous, and Julie Walters and Billy Elliot. Like every ceremony, someone different won. So then we got to the Oscars in March of 01. Like who's gonna take it? And the person who won was Marcia Gay Harden for Pollock.
Yeah.
And that she had not won anything until that night.
That's incredible. That is so incredible.
In some ways, I kind of wish like Hong Chow had won at Critics' Choice.
Yeah. So then everybody had dipped their toes in a little bit.
So then we'd have 4 different winners. And then going into Oscar, I could maybe predict Stephanie Shu to win.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. And it's not impossible. Like if enough people, like if Everything Everywhere really does well on Sunday night, but I just feel like there's more industry love for Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a much more seasoned veteran, a known name. I feel like more people will check her name off the list than they will Stephanie. That like I just don't think not enough people know who Stephanie is. Like I don't think that can happen.
Yeah.
But Angela Bassett, like she's like her momentum has faded in the last 3-4 weeks. Like her 2 big wins started her off strong, and then it's really kind of faded. Like Black Panther Wakanda Forever is not winning much, like like for technical stuff and in other ceremonies. Like, and I wonder if enough people will just be like, I'm not going to vote for Black Panther Wakanda Forever in acting. Like that's not happening. It's an MCU movie.
Yeah.
Like give me a break. Like there will be those people, but I also think there's a lot of people who will look down and they'll be like Carrie Condon, Jamie Lee Curtis, okay, but that was kind of a nothing character in that movie. Angela Bassett, is my choice. I feel like there's going to be people who just see Angela's name and just be like, "Yep."
And that's fair. Choice. Yeah, no, and she is very good in that movie.
That one scene that was in the trailer, like that is
devastating.
Like that's the most like powerful moment I think in a movie of any of these 5 nominees. Like maybe Stephanie Shu at the end in the parking lot and Everything Everywhere. That's also a great scene. But like in terms of like gravitas, power, emotion, you can feel her pain in that 2 minute, 3 minute.
It's palpable.
Scene. Yeah, so great.
Yeah,
like, no. If they just play that clip over and over, I think Angela wins.
and look, that's very fair. It's a captivating performance, and given the context and what it surrounds in terms of the meta qualities there, obviously it's very poignant, right? I mean, you can't really separate the real life events surrounding that film and that performance, and maybe the spellbinding nature of that is what draws voters to her. And look, it's a great performance. I do think the best performances though here are Carrie Condon and Stephanie Sue. I think it should come down to them.
Mm-hmm.
My vote would be for Carrie Condon. She was my personal vote for Best Supporting Actress of the year. But Stephanie Sue is, again, like a 1B or a 1AA. Like those two are really tied as far as I'm concerned. Like flip a coin. Like for me, either one of those winning here, I would be elated.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I admire and respect the hell out of her. She's probably fifth on this list for me.
She's the weakest performance here. That would not be a great win for like the history books. Like as much as I love her, I agree. It's not a great performance. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. That's like, hey, you've been around for a while. Here's an award. Like that's one of those.
I do feel like if Jamie Lee Curtis wins, it just proves once again that the winner can just be the one who really schmoozed the most, who really got out there. She has been promoting this movie hard since March of 2022, like just every day if you follow her Instagram, and she's just out just like on every talk show. I mean, in October, they were starting to bring up like Everything Everywhere. And she was like, I'm going all in. Like, I am all in on this movie and we're going to get it some. I mean, she like manifested a lot of this. I think Jamie Lee Curtis and has worked really hard. If she wins, I'm going to be like, she kind of like in part won this award through just sheer like determination,
work and being out there. Yeah. I mean, and I do understand why people would want to vote, in that regard. But if we're just talking about performance in the film, which is, let's be honest, that's what it should come down to. That's not what it comes down to, but that's what it should be. And she would be fifth on the list. Hong Chow, I really love her in The Whale and should be in the conversation more, honestly.
She's great.
So, I mean, I for all the reasons you've talked about, I could see this going a number of ways. My prediction, though, is Carrie Condon. I just think that's where the Academy is going to go. At the end of it, we'll see how that turns out. All right,
I would love to see Angela Bassett win an Oscar. That would be really cool.
I would be happy. Yeah, no,
she's deserving. She's had so many great performances. I'm going with Bassett. Probably wrong, but hey, going down with the ship.
We'll see. I love that. I love that theory. All right, let's get to Best Actor. So the nominees here are Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and Bill Nighy for Living. Man, what a lineup. I'm so in love with this lineup.
Yeah.
Very good. What do you got here?
So this is the category I'm like very close to predicting Austin Butler. Like he's like very close here because I think he might win this. I do feel like he lost a little bit of momentum not winning at SAG. If Austin Butler had won at SAG, same thing if Carrie Condon had won at SAG, I would be going with them all in. But I feel like Austin Butler not winning at SAG does give me a little bit of pause. Like, are enough people going to vote for this, little bit younger actor? He's like 30, 31. Has he had a lead role in a movie before? Like, this is kind of his introduction to the world in a way. Like, he's been in stuff for the last 10, 15 years, but this is like his big, like, leading role movie debut. But the movie's in Best Picture. They love rewarding actors playing real life figures. Elvis Presley, bigger than life figure that everybody adores. And he did a great job in the movie. Like for me, he's the best thing about Elvis. I was kind of mixed on the film overall as a movie, but he's great in it.
Yes.
And he won BAFTA. Him winning a BAFTA was huge because everyone thought that was going to Colin Farrell. Like Banshees wins in both supporting categories at BAFTA, and then they don't give it to Colin Farrell. Like that shows that Butler's very, very strong. And a lot of people who win BAFTA go on to win the Oscar. So it's really close for me. It kind of comes down to narrative, and I just prefer his performance a little bit more. And I am predicting Brendan Fraser in The Whale. Like I just think that to me was the most kind of like striking, dramatic performance in this category. Brendan Fraser brought me to tears in two different scenes in that movie. I just thought he was just bringing it. And in that, underneath all of that makeup, like he really makes that character feel real. And he's so moving at the end of that movie. Like everybody around me in the theater was crying when I watched that movie. And I still think about his performance. And I have loved Brendan Fraser since I grew up with that guy. Like
same.
He came into his own in the early to mid 90s. and then films like The Mummy, and like I grew up Bedazzled. I just grew up with him. I adore him, and I don't think anyone thought he had this performance in him. Like he just, especially in the last decade, he hasn't been in much. So he just kind of came out of nowhere with this just brilliant performance in Darren Aronofsky's film. And I know a lot of people hate on the movie. I liked it more than others did. It didn't make my top 10 or anything. I liked it more than others.
Yeah.
I feel like if the movie gets something, it's for the Brendan Fraser performance. He's just so great in that movie, and he won a Critics' Choice and he won at SAG. So he's a player here. For me, it's between him and Butler. And I think the smart choice might be Butler. I think he might just squeak a win, especially since Elvis is in the Best Picture category and The Whale is not. That's bad, because as was pointed out to me in the last 2 weeks, the last Best Actor winner in a movie that was not nominated for Best Picture was way back in 2010, Jeff Bridges in Crazy Heart. Since 2010, every Best Actor winner has been in a movie nominated for Best Picture. So that to me is the statistic that I'm like, ooh, that's a tough call, especially since more people will be watching Elvis. I think more people like Elvis. So I feel like that might give Butler the victory here. But it's the heart thing again. I prefer Fraser here. And so I'm predicting Brendan Fraser in The Whale. If Butler had won at SAG, it would have been over. It was going to be Butler. Yeah. But I feel like there's a little bit of momentum for Fraser here. He's got a great narrative, like Ke Quan, a great story, kind of coming back. After, he's always been working, but his star has definitely faded in the last 15 years, and it's just so great to rediscover him again. Just a very, very strong lead performance in a movie. And so I'm going with Fraser. It's okay. If they say Butler, I'll be like, yep, kind of expected that. But I'm going to jump for joy if they announce Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser, like you, I grew up on him. I think his performance in The Whale is excellent. Say what you will about the movie on the whole. I think the problem with The Whale mostly suffers in the writing. I think Fraser is really great, and I don't think he should be a victim of the polarization of that film simply because of how everyone has responded to the writing, because I think he transcends the writing of that film, and he is really great. And I did find him really moving, especially because at the heart of that film, and this isn't really talked about enough, I don't think, it's a movie about addiction. And I think he taps into that in these incredible ways that make sense of the film's ideas on faith, as uneven as it is at times. I think he's able to tap into it in such a biting way that is, and the way he just kind of clings to empathy and hope despite everything around him. And that's why, people can talk about how trite it is in execution, but that's why the film had to have that mean-spirited nature behind it. And again, whether that works for you is irrelevant, because I think Fraser is able to transcend whatever that is tonally in the film. For me, and this is again quintessential head and heart, because you're right. It does seem like the smart play here is Austin Butler.
Yeah,
the Academy loves these type of performances. They always win. If you sign up for a movie and you're portraying a real life figure and you do a good job, you are not only going to get nominated, you are very likely to win an Oscar. Like, that's just how this works. And so Austin Butler is probably going to win here. And while he has lost momentum, it utterly blows my mind that Colin Farrell is not in the conversation more.
I know.
I cannot fathom how we have gotten to this point, because he gave two of the best performances of his career in 2022. He should be nominated for After Yang as much as The Banshees of Inisherin. Now, After
Yang,
he's
great in the Batman too,
and he's great in the Batman as well. Like, he had the best year that any actor could ask for collectively on the whole, and yet he has somehow found himself on the outside looking in. So my pick here for best actor is one of those. And I feel like every year you have to have one of these, or, we try to have one of these go big or go home kind of predictions. And this is going to be it for me. It probably makes no sense statistically in terms of momentum. I'm looking at this illogically, and I fully understand that. But my go big or go home prediction is Colin Farrell.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That voters will come to realize that he had the best year that any actor could possibly have collectively on the whole. And we know that they do vote like that sometimes. And when you look at the year he had and the performance he gives in The Banshees of Inisherin, like if he can't win an Oscar for that film and the year that he had, he's not going to win an Oscar. It's done. It's over. Like if he can't win for this, especially given the competitors he's up against, and nothing against Fraser or Butler, but he's as good, if not better than them. And, because every now and then, this was kind of always the thing with DiCaprio, right? It's like DiCaprio should have won for this and that. And it's like, you look at like who he lost to, and it's like, okay, I can kind of see it, until he wins for The Revenant. So it's like, there was always an argument there that, that DiCaprio could have, like, for him coming in second, I kind of get it. I don't know if that argument is here for Colin Farrell in this case. Like to me, this was the best performance of the year, or the best year any actor could have had. I have to go with him. This is the one category I'm fully going with my heart.
No guts, no glory.
No guts, no glory. Just doing it. I'm pulling the trigger on it.
He did win at Golden Globes. He won.
He did win at the Globes. Yeah.
What did someone say the other day? Like the last time someone really just didn't win much or anything at all, and then took the Oscar was Adrian Brody for The Pianist in 2003. Like he came out of nowhere for that win. But part of the reason that Brody won was that there were a lot of people in the category winning things here and then some winning here. And like, this guy would win at SAG and then this other guy would win at BAFTA. And it was like, well, who's taking the Oscar? And then Adrian Brody wins in a surprise. So that could be the case here. There might be enough kind of going back and forth between Fraser and Butler that Farrell just kind of sneaks in. I don't think it's impossible. The movie's in Best Picture, Best Director. It's not impossible.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not impossible.
But hard.
Yeah, very hard. Or
he needed to win a BAFTA.
Yeah,
that would have helped.
For sure. Because I also think of, and I can't remember the exact context, maybe you can fill in the gaps here, but a few years ago, what was it, 2018, 2019, when Olivia Colman won, and it was like a big surprise, and we're like, oh man, no one really anticipated that. That's kind of what I'm hoping happens here with Colin Farrell's. Like, he's kind of on the outside, no one's really expecting it, and then boom, they announce his name.
So Olivia Colman, I mean, she was such a huge surprise because everybody thought they were going to finally give Glenn Close an Oscar on her 7th nomination. But if you look back, Olivia Colman had a better shot than we realized, because Olivia Colman, she won at the Golden Globes and she won at BAFTA. And then her movie had 10 nominations, including Best Picture, and The Wife was only nominated in that one category for Glenn Close. So when you look back, it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense. We should have been. I just didn't think they were going to snub her a 7th time. That just was not even. I was in such shock. I was like, what? Couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I think collectively we all had the same reaction, and I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from in terms of energy, at the very least here with Colin Farrell. So.
Yeah, if Farrell had won at BAFTA, I might be predicting Farrell. Yeah. I just felt like that was an easy get for him, since Kerry Condon and Barry Keoghan won in the supporting categories. Why would they not give it to Farrell in lead? That just was strange to me.
Yeah, which is why going with Butler makes the most sense here. Absolutely it does. And I understand that this is not a logical pick. It is 100% no guts, no glory. The best actor. That's wrong. Because I just can't wrap my head around not awarding Colin Farrell with the year he had. Like, and God love Austin Butler. He will have many other opportunities, I'm sure. Farrell has been around for a while, and I just if he doesn't win here, he's just never going to win.
That's the other thing I'm struggling with Butler. It's like he's like 31. Like I feel like Butler will have more chances in the decades to come for more nominations. I feel like some Academy members might just think, well, let's just give him the nomination this time. Let's see what he brings in the years down the road and see if we can reward him then. I mean, it's not super young. I believe Adrian Brody's the youngest Best Actor winner in 95 years at 29. And then Butler is like 31. So he's pretty close to youngest. If Butler was like 25, I'd say, I don't know. But that does factor into it too, I think.
Yeah. And I don't think it's crazy to say that Farrell gives the best performance out of these 5. It's not out of bounds to say that.
Yeah.
So it's not as if I'm coming from just I'm acting out of hope here. Farrell is very good and is as deserving as Butler.
But I do think it's funny that Butler to me is the likeliest winner here, and we're both predicting different people. That's funny.
It is funny. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Best Actress. This should be fun as well. So we have Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. What do you got for this category, Brian?
So if anyone has been following my Twitter feed or watches my videos, like I have wanted 4 months for Michelle Yeoh to take this. We've only had one woman of color win Best Actress in 95 years, and that's pathetic. That's ridiculous. And as much as I love Cate Blanchett and Tar is my favorite film of the year. Cate Blanchett would be an amazing winner here. And if Cate Blanchett didn't already have that lead actress Oscar for Blue Jasmine, I might be leaning towards Cate Blanchett, but I'm like, Blanchett has enough. She's got 2 Oscars already. What is she in her early 50s? Like Blanchett would be a very young 3-time winner. Yeah. Like Meryl Streep had to go a long while after Sophie's Choice to win her 3rd Oscar for The Iron Lady 29 years later. And I just feel like Cate Blanchett will probably have another 5 to 7 nominations in the next 20 to 30 years. Whereas Michelle Yeoh, this might be her one chance, at least in lead actress, to ever win an Oscar. And it's such a deserving performance. She is on another level in Everything Everywhere. She's the glue that holds the movie together. She's funny. She's sad. She plays every emotion. She plays a variety of different characters so beautifully. In a 2.5-hour movie, she really holds it together. And I feel like she's an icon. She's a beloved figure going back to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, even before that. And this is kind of like the role of her lifetime. This is a role of her career. This is the moment for Michelle Yeoh. And I want to see Yeoh win this. And her win at SAG was huge. Cate Blanchett had won, well, they both won a Golden Globes, but then Cate Blanchett won Critics' Choice and she won BAFTA. And I went, I think it might be over. This might be Blanchett sweeping. And I thought it comes down to SAG. The only chance Yeoh has at winning at the Oscars, I think, at this point, is if she can win at SAG over Blanchett. And she did. And then she won at the Independent Spirit Awards over Blanchett the other day. The momentum is slowly moving in Michelle Yeoh's direction. And I feel like that momentum hit at just the right time. Because as we're speaking right now, Oscar voting is almost over. Like the 5-6 day window of Oscar voting came right after the momentum of her SAG win, and then in the middle of her win at Independent Spirit Awards over Blanchett both times, where Tar did not do well. It only won cinematography at Independent Spirits, whereas at SAG and Indie Spirits, Everything Everywhere just like swept, just at a huge haul in like most of its categories. So the momentum hit at the right time as they're voting. So I feel like it'll be close, but I am predicting that Michelle Yeoh will win on Oscar night.
Love to hear it. And I don't really have too much to add. I echo everything you just said there. Cate Blanchett is phenomenal in Tar. And if she wins, I will be very happy for Cate Blanchett. She's one of the very best we have working today. But this is Michelle Yeoh's time. And I think she gives a performance that is equally worthy, that is equally excellent. And what I really love about the performance, and I've talked about this a few times, we might have even talked about this the last time we got together as well. What I really love about Michelle Yeoh in that film, a film that is absolutely wild and audacious and not using subtlety all that much. But Michelle Yeoh is somewhat antithetical. Like it is a really contemplative and restrained performance for the most part. A lot of what she's doing in that film is simply reacting to the carnage around her.
Yeah.
And yet through that introspective performing, she is able to render all of those emotional ranges that you're talking about. And it is absolutely incredible. And even when she is diving into the dialogue, again, it's not very cathartic. It's often playing into that kind of restrained approach. And it's in some ways it's not your typical Oscar performance in that way. Even though the film is so bombastic and weird and crazy, and I love it, but yeah, it's a very, like, it's not like Lydia Tarr at all. Like Cate Blanchett in that film is very biting and she's snarky, and there's a lot of dialogue through a lot of that film. Now there is some great subtlety in that film, don't get me wrong, but that kind of, like, that's not the kind of performance that Michelle Yeoh is giving here. And so it does make for an interesting, I guess, debate or a dichotomy between those two and who's going to win and what kind of performance that these voters are going to go for. But at the end of the day, I'm with you. As simple as it is to say Cate Blanchett has Oscars, Michelle Yeoh has none. And when everything else is equal, and I do think that everything else is equal, then my vote's going to Michelle Yeoh. And I imagine many are going to vote that way. Plus, there's also just the general momentum, the huge wave that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. So.
It just feels like we're heading in that direction, and people are finally saying, yeah, it's Michelle Yeoh's moment. It's her time. Let's do it. I mean, the second woman of color in 95 years. Like, give me a break. It's
exactly.
She's more than deserving. And it would be for me, I think it'd be just the moment of the night. It would be so great. Standing ovation for this amazing talent. And she's 60 years old. She's been acting for 40 years. And she's never been nominated for an Oscar before. This is the role of her lifetime.
Exactly.
Let's give it to Yeoh this year.
100%. Once in a lifetime kind of performance.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Best Director. So the nominees we have here are Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, the Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Todd Field for Tar, Papa Spielberg for The Fabelmans, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. What do you got here, Brian?
So I think director and picture are pretty well set. I mean, you never know. Sometimes they throw a curveball and we're all going to be like, what? Like, it could happen. But I do think that the Daniels take this after their win at DGA. I was predicting that Spielberg was going to win there. Kind of a legacy win there since he has not really won a major directing prize since Saving Private Ryan in the late 90s. Yeah. He's done lots of great work since. He just got nominated last year for West Side Story. The Fabelmans is his most personal film, and he did a great job. It's in my top 10. I love The Fabelmans. And that just felt like that's where we reward The Fabelmans. We give director to Spielberg. And then when he didn't win a DGA and the Daniels won there, and then how well Everything Everywhere is done at SAG and then at the Independent Spirit Awards. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible. Like, I think Spielberg's win at the Globes says, like, it's not impossible, but I think it'd be pretty crazy to predict anyone but the Daniels for Best Director.
Yeah, no, I think it's as simple as that. A part of me wants to think that they'll spread the love around because we know everything is going to, it is going to take home Oscars and most likely take home Best Picture. Let's throw some love to the Fabelmans and Spielberg for this very personal story that is really good. I think it's top tier Spielberg for one. It's a deserving win. That's not like a pandering. Let's give Martin Scorsese an Oscar, because he's deserved one 10 times over, and so we're finally going to give him one. I don't think this is that. I think the Fabelmans is very deserving. I certainly get it. I mean, what the Daniels do with everything, like that, the complexities of that film the weird brazenness of it. It is like that just might be lightning in a bottle. We'll see if they can capture that again as their careers go. But I also think Spielberg, his direction is of the best of the year. So a part of me wants that to happen, but I also feel like I've spent 2 minutes wasting air because that's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's just not very flashy.
So-
Like what Spielberg's doing, The Fabelmans, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty restrained.
Yeah.
Whereas you watch
Yeah.
Everything Everywhere and just like, it's so flashy that it
It's
just
so
seems
much
the
of the
likely pick and director.
Yeah. No, I agree. That is very much where it's going. And I am also predicting the Daniels to win. All right, let's get to Best Picture. The big daddy of them all. The nominees here are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. All right. I think we all know where this is headed, but I'll toss it to you anyway, Brian.
Yeah.
What are you predicting for Best Picture?
I don't think Everything Everywhere All at Once has this 100%. I do think like there could be a huge surprise on Oscar night, but very, very slim chance. I think the wise choice here is to predict Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won a PGA, won a Critics' Choice, won a DGA, won a SAG, won an Independent Spirits. It didn't win at Golden Globes, and it didn't win at BAFTA. It doing very poorly at BAFTA is the only pause I have. I think, well, they really didn't like it over there, and I think there's a lot of voters in the Academy that kind of predict the way or vote the way that BAFTA does. So that's like the only pause I have. So I'm like mentally prepared for like a stunner win in picture, but I think 99.9% it's going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm with you. Everything Everywhere All at Once is the prediction. This is also where I'm curious about the tally.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about transparency. What is the final score? That I would love to know. I want to know what's number 2. Is it All Quiet on the Western Front because it got 9 nominations? Is it really that close to Everything, or is it The Banshees of Inisherin? Obviously that got a ton of love as well. The Fabelmans, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd be curious what the final.
If All Quiet was in director, I'd be a little bit hesitant to just go all in on Everything Everywhere.
On everything,
it not being in director makes me think that would be just a crazy picture win. If it
like over Ruben Ostlund, like I don't understand how Ruben Ostlund gets
over
in
Edward Berger. All Quiet, yeah.
All Quiet has 9 nominations, but you're gonna nominate the guy for Triangle of Sadness, which has what, 3 on the night?
I'm still kind of stunned that Triangle of Sadness gets picture, director, and screenplay in the categories, but we don't nominate Dolly De Leon and supporting actress. That was weird to me.
What are we doing here?
She's a delight in the last hour of that movie. She's so great.
Great.
Why do we give
very deserving?
Why do we give it these 3 category nominations that weren't really expected? Like I think some predicted picture, but I definitely was not predicting director. That was a huge surprise on Oscar nominations morning. And then Dolly De Leon doesn't make it into the 5 in supporting actors. That was weird.
You know what was a really great film, and we should nominate it in all the categories, is All Quiet on the Western Front. But let's not put him in director because that makes it seem too obvious that we like this movie.
It directed itself.
Exactly. Anyway, Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to win Best Picture. We all know that. It's just a matter of who finished in second. That's what we'd like to know. At any rate, that's our predictions for the 2023 Oscars. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Brian?
I apologize if anyone takes my predictions and puts that on their ballot and then does very poorly on Sunday night. I apologize because I'm not feeling super confident this year. Like last year I did very well and I felt very confident going into the night. And this year I'm like, man, this could be like my worst performance ever. This might be bad.
It'll be fun though. I love it. Go for the heart.
I come usually I'm like, you know what, if I do very poorly, I would rather not vote or predict the movie that's expected to win, and then the winner ends up being the one I love. Then I'm like, oh, I hate when that happens. So this year I'm just kind of going in on a lot of these categories with from the heart, movies that I love, performances I love, and we'll see what happens. There's going to be some surprises on Sunday night. I'm very excited to see what happens at the big ceremony.
I am as well. You know, it is March Madness after all. And the one thing we know about March Madness is that there are upsets. You cannot just predict the expected winner is not going to win every game. And so I'm hoping that the Oscars plays out the same. That we have some upsets. It's going to be great. Tell us, Brian, where can we find you on the internet? Where can we find you on social media?
So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Mr. Brian Rowe. That's Mr. Brian Rowe on Twitter. Check out my YouTube channel for all things Oscars. I make weekly video essays on like the current season, and I make retrospective video pieces about Oscars past. That's at Brian Rowe Video on YouTube. And check out my podcast, Film at 50, where we talk about movies released 50 years ago. Our host today was on it just recently for Save the Tiger, starring Jack Lemmon. Yeah,
very, very good stuff. Be sure to go and check out Brian's work. Love the podcast. Love all the awards videos and stuff that you do. Cannot recommend it enough. And obviously follow him on social media. He's a madman on Twitter. Yeah. You definitely want to follow him. It's a ton of fun. I love checking out all your stuff there, Brian. So I really do appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time and all the passion and fun and all the heart that you brought to your predictions this year. It's really great stuff. So really do appreciate it. Be sure to stay tuned for the podcast this weekend as we will give our reactions to all the winners and everything that happens. Obviously, we talked about the actual categories. There's going to be a bunch of filler, a host. Hopefully there's no shenanigans this year. We shall see. But we'll break it all down on the podcast this weekend. Be sure to check all of that out and have fun with the Oscars. Just keep in mind, it's not the be all end all of these films. You can, regardless of who wins, you can love what you love. We don't have to fight about it. It's okay. If the film, if the performance, if whatever you want, if it loses, it's fine. It's still good. Still good. Can we can all agree to behave and be friends at the end of this, I hope? That's my plea anyway. Anyway, thanks, Brian, for being here. I really do appreciate it. And we will see you all next time on the InSession Film Podcast. I hope we get an appearance from Rakakuni.
September 20th, 2022, VMLYNR for Zeljans. Ad ID PFXE01210000. Spot title, 60 Mornings Are Made for Better Things. 60-second radio, full mix.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Zeljans tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Zeljans can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Zeljans can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Zeljans. Visit Zeljans.com or call 1-844-ZELJANS.